I love making content and creating because I think it's something God has gifted me with, is the ability to create stuff, the desire to as well. It's a gift as well, the desire to create, because I get a lot of joy from creating. If I didn't have that desire, I feel like my life would be a little less colorful.
What's it like being a Christian creative?
I would say I have a tough time because being a creative, it can often be criticized because you're not doing like a real job, I guess. Not that I can't. I've spent my life doing like real jobs, like labor stuff, but people often will, I guess, yeah. Even a person doing an office job, it's requires diligence and dutifulness, or creative jobs don't necessarily have that same disciplinary aspect. So yeah, it can be difficult culturally just because people can kind of rag on you, and I get that a lot. And I bounce. I mean, I understand that I bounce, and I don't. I'm not trying to say that to feel pity, or for anyone to feel pity, but yeah, it can definitely weigh on you. And sometimes I find myself feeling, or just thinking that like I'm doing the wrong thing because I'm not doing the same 9 to 5 every day. And sometimes it can also reflect on a person's faithfulness, that, well, if you can't stick with a job for 1 year, which I never really have. There was one job that I did for a couple of years, and then the other job that I did was self-employment. So, not really, I don't count that because every day was different. But yeah, people will see you as less faithful if you cannot stick to a job like that, I guess. So it's difficult. Another thing is, the difficulty side of it is actually having morals, because making bad content, making inappropriate content, it would be easy to make that stuff and get attention, but or just to make money, and not even attention, but just making money off stuff like that. It's a bit easier than finding a more niche group where the only people who really care to hear your message are people with ears to hear. So it's, you have a smaller audience, you have a smaller pool of people who you work with and stuff like that. And that's why I think it's great you're trying to build a community where people can connect like that. And when I find groups like that, I love it, because you feel a bit more mass to it, I guess. So oftentimes it just feels like I'm making stuff just for myself, or, not that that's wrong, but it doesn't pay the bills necessarily. So it's that starving artist sort of thing, but maybe even more starving. But there's creatives like Ruslan, who he's killing it. But I think his content's gotten worse over the years. No offense to him. Like, I love the guy, but it's become less artistic, less creative, and more formulaic. And so it fits into a mold in a sense. Again, not that that's bad, but it's that thing we're talking about with kind of convincing you for attention, I guess. Yeah. A lot of, especially I watched a lot of Christian YouTubers. I see a trend where they're moving towards these clickbaity titles and these kind of like ridiculous thumbnails that, even if it's not their intention, it screams arrogance. Like Christian, God Logic is he's the name of a Christian YouTuber. God Logic annihilates Muslim, annihilates 2 Muslim guys on the Trinity or whatever. It's like, I don't want to click on that. Like, I don't care to see God Logic annihilate 2 Muslims. I want to see a conversation where I'm hearing the arguments and learning how to argue, learning or just listening to process philosophically on my own as well. But when you have that sort of aggressive nature, like, that's what gets clicks in general, but it's not appealing. It's not Christian. I mean, it's not that God Logic's not Christian. It's not just him, but in general, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like titling videos because the title is going to get attention. It can so quickly turn into inauthentic. Like, I want to title my videos authentically, I guess. So yeah, and yes, it's definitely, I love making content and creating, because I think it's something God has gifted me with, is the ability to create stuff, the desire to as well. That's a gift as well. The desire to create, because, excuse me, I get a lot of joy from creating. If I didn't have that desire, I feel like my life would be a little less colorful, more robotic. But there's also Christian creators that their content is God honoring, but it's not specifically Christian content, I guess that's what we're going for, with, YouTube and stuff like that. A lot of Christian people are YouTubers, and they mention God, they honor God, but their content isn't about Christianity. Like Cory Kenshin, for example, he's a gaming channel, but he is, like, his content is refreshing. It's not overbearing. It's not over edited. He's very entertaining, but he also loves God. Like, you can tell through his videos. He's like a sweet guy. He's a caring guy, and he doesn't shy away from mentioning God, which is, I think, what happened maybe 10 years ago. People would be afraid to mention God, and because maybe half their audience would drop off or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. The world of Christian creative, especially on YouTube, is very unique, I would say, right now. But I actually see a strong trend towards Christian creativity, because there's meaning behind it, and that's what people are, like, hungry for right now. Like, I know I'm not answering your question anymore. I'm kind of,
you're answering,
yapping, but the Christian creative content, I mean, the Christian is intentionally trying to inject meaning, because that's we're the people of the book. The book, everything has meaning in the Bible. Every story, there's meaning injected into it that's intended. It's the hermeneutics, where there's a message that's supposed to be going out, and you want people to listen and try to understand and interpret that message. So because we have that nature as Christians, it makes our content more appealing to people who are hungry, because there's so much slop out there that people are just making stuff for fake attention, I guess, or to steal attention. Like, people want to be giving away their attention to something that's going to give back to them, even if they're not having a conversation, like with the movies. Like we were saying, you sit down for a movie knowing that it's not a conversation, but it's going to build you up. And so, yeah, people just like to see that now. I think the trend is, we're going up towards a trend of Christians dominating media, I think, at least social media or internet media, which is very positive. Especially Angel Studios is huge. Who's that filmmaker? Zachary Levi. He's an actor, I guess, but he's building a Christian film studio in Texas. Like Christian film is also on the come up, because everything else is being devoid of value.
Yeah.
So as a Christian creative, I love to see that, because I don't know, it just encourages me to make content and not give up. Like, we're not going to be overrun, I guess. I don't know. Sometimes I felt that way. Like, you know what? Like, if I could just make extreme vulgar content where I'm just doing some crazy stuff, or like if you make videos where you beat up homeless guys, like, that's controversial. That's going to get views. You know what I mean? But it's meaningless. It's like, it's worthless. So yeah.
I gotta check that off my to-do list.
Yeah. But there's also a difference too with video content, or I guess literature stands out in its own way. That, yeah, you can watch movies, you can parse through movies, but I think writing still holds the most amount of meaning and it can communicate the message the most clearly or effectively, I guess. And that's not to discount the other, what's the word, mediums, mediums? I don't know. But, yeah, you can be the most precise, I think, with writing and the most, what's the word? Yeah, precise maybe is a good word for it. But again, you can combine visual and poetic and sonic and create something beautiful. But it's just harder to process, I think, sometimes. Or it can be harder to meditate on, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with like the writing being like the most powerful thing, because that's where you're getting to the heart of story. Like you're closer to the ground level of telling a story than, and doing and mastering that story that you're trying to tell. And because the reality is the story you're telling masters you.
Yeah.
And so if you don't master that story and that's a very difficult task. There is a level in which you can do damage, like positive damage towards improving on a story that you're trying to tell. And I find that the most effectiveness that you have at improving the story that you're telling, thus improving the story that governs your life, is in writing and revising and going to sleep, sleeping and just kind of sobering up from what you wrote, coming back the next day with sober eyes, seeing how it works on you, and then rewriting it from scratch. Like that has been the most powerful means of writing narratives and reinterpreting the narratives that you're trying to tell, that you're telling yourself. Because whatever you're writing, whether if you're writing a piece of art, or literature or something, it's going to impact you in ways that you don't foresee. Your life's for me, my life imitates the art that I make. I've had that happen plenty of times.